Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and these are the best builds I've ever used for New Game Plus and beyond. I had a lot of people ask me about this, so I decided to make an awesome list for the best New Game Plus and beyond builds. Now, to start with this, I want to do the Scavenger Curved Swords. The Scavenger Curved Sword, any variant, by the way, is absolutely phenomenal. They completely shred on occult. You can use them in Bleed Frost, or any affinity, and absolutely shred. This was on New Game Plus 7, by the way, for this specific one, and I couldn't believe how powerful they truly were when I used them. When I ended up using the Scavenger Curve Swords, after a lot of suggestions, they shredded beyond belief. The amount of damage they stack between the consecutive attack and the jump attack bonuses is insane. Now let's get into equipment. Now for equipment, we have two Scavenger Curve Swords. We have them both at plus 25. You can do Bleed, or Bleed Frost. They're both phenomenal. Or you can use any variant of affinities with the same setup, more or less. And we have the White Mask, Raptor's Black Feathers for those boosts, Rotten Wing Sword Insignia, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Millicent's Prosthesis, Claw Talisman, and then the Thorny tier and the Faith tier for buffs as well. For the 150 stats, you're going to heavily invest in Arcane for the Bleed setup. For Bleed and Frost, you can go with a little bit more Dex or a little bit of Intelligence, but don't forget, you're going to have Chilling Mist on the one, so that's going to help you a lot, giving you that extra Frost on the weapon as well. These are two of the best weapons, basically one of the best weapons, but if you're using two of them for New Game Plus and beyond, I can't even express it enough how fantastic they are. The damage is ridiculous. They completely shred, and they will carry you through the game. Next up, the Blasphemous Blade. The Blasphemous Blade is fantastic for New Game Plus because it's an amazing weapon in general. It heals you with the Ash of War, it does a substantial amount of fire damage, and it scales really well with Faith, specifically on the Ash of War, giving it a high damage cap, the health that you get back. Combo it with the Sword of Milos, by the way, and you can get FP and HP off of killing regular enemies as well very quickly. It's fantastic for running through dungeons as well throughout all new game cycles, and obviously it's a boss destroyer too. It's a fantastic weapon. The Blasphemous Blade is an extremely powerful tool in Elden Ring. You've probably had people tell you about the Blasphemous Blade before, say, oh, if you're a Strength Faith build, eventually around the mid-game you're able to get this weapon. Well, guess what? This is a weapon that can carry you through all the New Game Plus cycles and beyond. So if you end up really enjoying the Blasphemous Blade, keep it. It's fantastic. It's something you can always go back to. Makes the game a lot easier as well, given the fact that you're getting back HP off of every Ash of War usage, and the fact that the fire damage is substantial makes it all the more powerful. And did I mention it's really fun to use? Yeah, it's really fun to use too. It's not even that FP costly for how much it does, and since you're using the Sword of Milos, if you're just in regular combat with enemies, you're going to get a lot of that FP back too, and it's a really fantastic thing to combo the two. You can also use the debuff on the Sword of Milos for increased damage. Now let's get into equipment. Now for equipment, we have the Blasphemous Blade plus 10. The Sword of Milos, you're going to want to upgrade it. I was just using it for the debuff and the passive. Any seal will do. Shard of Alexander, Ritual Swords Talisman, Fire Scorpion Charm, Dragon Crest, preferably the Great Shield Talisman. And then we have the Fire tier, and then if you want to use the Faith tier to increase that stat, or the Defense tier as well. Now for the stats, you're just going to heavily invest in Faith. I really like the stats for this combo build, but if you're just using the Blasphemous Blade, you can go up to 80 Faith. You'll get a ton of damage out of the Ash of War since it scales mainly with Faith and minimum stats on the weapon. If you're going to use the physical portion of the weapon, that scales more with Strength. These are really well-rounded stats, by the way, so if you're looking for a good setup for the Blasphemous Blade, this is something I came up with at 150 to stay meta relevant that does a lot of damage. Next up, Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike, one of my favorite builds in Elden Ring. It's incredibly powerful. Let's get into the details. This is at 150, by the way, level 150 to stay meta relevant, and it's on New Game Plus 7. This is one of the characters that stays that way for the purpose of YouTube. I'm on Xbox, so everything's pretty much fresh playthroughs and whatnot. Long story short, though, even at 150, we're able to one-shot a lot of stuff. It's incredibly powerful incantation in Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. If this is something you never used like anything else in here, this can be buffed like crazy. You can do so much damage. The potential is unreal, and it's very easy to use once you get used to it. Granted, it has a little bit of a learning curve in the beginning, but once you learn enemy movesets and boss placement, you'll be able to one-shot a ton of stuff. It's an absolute blast. Let's get into equipment. For equipment at 150, we have the Gravelstone Seal plus 25, the Jellyfish Shield, the Black Dumpling and Mushroom Crown. You can swap either one of those for extra damage. Godfrey Icon, Lightning Scorpion Charm, Red Feathered Branch Sword, Kindred of Rot's Exaltation, Lightning tier, and then you can use the Faith tier, Bubble tier, Defense tier. The other one's really up to you. It's a fantastic setup to get a lot of damage out of Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. For the 150 stats, everything is pretty much set up awesomely here. You just want to heavily invest in Faith. Faith is your main thing that's going to give you all the damage. With that Gravelstone Seal and the Jellyfish boost, you can do a lot of damage with Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike with this setup. It's a fantastic incantation for all New Game Plus cycles. One last thing, for my own testing, it seems to do more damage with the Godfrey icon. Some people are saying they removed it. I checked the last 2 entire patch notes, didn't find anything on it, so that's up to you if you want to use that or switch it out for Lord of Bloods. Next up, Marais Executioner Sword, incredibly powerful weapon, again, for all New Game Plus cycles. Marais Executioner Sword is really powerful. It builds up a whole bunch of damage on the consecutive attack bonuses, pretty much all of them in the game. It's a fantastic weapon for all cycles throughout the game. First game, New Game Plus 7, doesn't matter. This absolutely shreds. This character is currently on Journey 5 in this one. We're at level 200. He's a little bit higher than my other characters, but overall, this weapon absolutely wrecks. Can destroy the majority of bosses in Elden Ring. Can even one-shot a whole bunch of different stuff. You've probably seen on YouTube before. Marais Executioner is a fantastic weapon. This is one of those weapons that's just super strong, has an insane cap as far as damage goes, and it can be buffed like crazy too. Now let's get into equipment. We have Marais Executioner plus 10. That sword is absolutely awesome. We have any seal will do. We're using the Black Dumpling and Mushroom Crown to buff this. If you want to check out the video on how to get insane levels of damage off this, Ronwing Sword Insignia, Godfrey Icon, Kindred of Rot's Exaltation, Shard of Alexander, Thorny tier, and if you want to use the Faith tier to help with buffs as well. A quick note real quick, if you're not subbed, definitely be sure to sub. This channel's been growing a ton lately. We're going to continue to cover Elden Ring content. It's been fantastic so far. I appreciate everyone, by the way. Also, everything's in the description below as far as these builds go, so if you need any more details on any individual build, they're all below in the description. And by the way, as far as the stats go here, you're going to heavily invest in Strength and Arcane. Strength and Arcane for the weapon will cap around 50 and 50. If you want to stay at 150 and stay meta relevant, around 40 and 40 will give you comparable damage. Next up, Night Comet, my favorite mage build in all of Elden Ring. Night Comet is absolutely fantastic for any New Game Plus cycle. My mage was, I think, around Journey 6 or 7, somewhere near max scaling at the time of this video, and it absolutely shreds. So as far as the damage goes here, I buffed it a lot, but even without the buffs, using 2 Staves of Loss gives you a 60% boost before any buffs to Night Comet. Also, to note, Night Comet can't be seen by Radagon, Melania. The majority of NPC invaders in the game are going to get hit by it, which makes it fantastic for the majority of bosses and enemies in Elden Ring. I've had really great feedback on my channel about this build. I first did this build at the end of October, early November, and then I did it again, a revamped version about a month or so ago, and it's just fantastic. It really is my favorite mage build in Elden Ring. The setup is phenomenal. The range it has, the damage it has, it truly is incredible. Yeah, this was another one where we did a whole buff setup and stuff if you want to see how to get this level of damage out of it. But even the base damage, like I said, that 60% boost, you're going to get a lot out of it. You're going to be surprised how good it is, how often it hits the enemies as well, how they're unable to dodge it, and how fantastic Night Comet is. Now let's get into the equipment for this awesome build. This one can get really confusing, so definitely check this one out in the description below. As far as the talisman goes, I was maining the Graven Mask Talisman, and then we have the Godfrey Icon, which will boost this when it's charged, Ritual Swords Talisman, Magic Scorpion Charm, then we have the Magic tier and the Faith tier for buffs, Fetid Pots and Boluses if you want to poison proc this as well. That video, by the way, goes into much better detail, and that's in the description below for everything you need to know about this build. Now let's get into stats. For stats, I did this on my mage character, which is level 200, but mainly you're just going to invest as much as you possibly can in intelligence because Night Comet is going to scale purely with intelligence since we're using 2 Staves of Loss. Once again, by the way, we buffed a lot of stuff in this video too. A lot of the builds are based off of buffs and stuff, but even on their own, they're fantastic for New Game Plus cycles. I just like to see how much damage I can get. The maximum amount of damage that I can get is kind of what I do on my channel. It's a lot of fun. So this is something, once again, with Night Comet that you can buff like crazy, and it's incredibly powerful. By the way, I had a little bit of a cold the past week or so, so I ended up losing my voice a little bit. You can probably hear it in the video, but I hope that one was helpful. I hope it's fantastic as far as damage goes and helping everybody with New Game Plus cycles. These are my 5 favorite that I individually picked. Had a lot of people that requested a video like this. It was a ton of fun to do this. I started a Patreon that's fairly new if you guys want to support the channel even further. There's also a Discord below if you guys want to check that out. There's a whole bunch of people chatting in there now. It's been fantastic growing an awesome Elden Ring community. It's been a ton of fun and it's going to continue to be fun. Definitely be sure to check out all the awesome builds that are on my channel. Be sure to sub, and as usual, I will catch you guys there.